They thought they could use their petty rules to steal my family's lake cabin. They thought they could threaten me, harass me, and leverage the power of their crooked homeowners association to illegally seize my deed. They thought they were untouchable. But today the game changed. We're talking about the moment I dropped the property survey that proved their $500,000. Lakefront Clubhouse was built entirely on my land and had the entire HOA board served with an eviction notice for criminal trespassing. You are not going to believe the sheer terror on the Lake Vista HOA president's face when the sheriff locked the doors to her precious clubhouse for good. Before we dive into this insane, high-stakes property war that ended with an entire HOA collapsing into legal oblivion, do me a favor. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you've ever dealt with a power-hungry Karen HOA. We've got more drama coming your way every single week. Now let's get started. This is the story of how a small inherited piece of paradise became the battleground for the most devastating HOA war this community had ever seen. My cabin, affectionately called The Retreat, sits on the absolute best lot in the entire Lake Vista community. It was grandfathered in, a pre-existing structure with a simple common-sense deed that stipulated my right to the land, lake access, and a very small annual fee for road maintenance. That was it. No architectural review, no paint color mandate, no grass height rules, which naturally made me a target. The villain of our story is Cassandra Hayes, the self-appointed queen of Lake Vista and HOA president. Cassandra, a woman whose entire personality was wrapped up in her $800,000 house and a $5 a year power trip, despised my cabin. Why? Because it was old, it was rustic, and it didn't conform to her vision of luxury uniformity. The initial conflict was so minor, so utterly ridiculous, it's hard to believe it spun into a six-figure lawsuit. It started with my boat lift. I had a perfectly functional older-style boat lift. Cassandra sent me a notice, citing a newly passed rule. A rule, mind you, passed entirely after my property was established, demanding I remove the lift and replace it with a specific, expensive, and frankly uglier HOA-approved model. I politely replied, attaching a copy of my deed which explicitly stated I was exempt from all non-essential covenants and restrictions. She responded by tripling my monthly maintenance fee to an absurd $450, citing a failure to comply with community beautification standards. When I ignored that too, she escalated. One Friday afternoon, I arrived at the retreat to find a chain padlocked across my driveway entrance. A freshly painted, obnoxious yellow sign was zip-tied to the chain. Private property, show lion in effect, no trespassing. I was locked out of my own cabin. The driveway chain was the line in the sand. I immediately called the sheriff's department, but Cassandra had already played her card. When the deputy arrived, she produced a completely fabricated document, a supposed amendment to my original deed, which she had filed with the county clerk the day before, claiming that failure to pay the new unauthorized fees allowed the HOA to place a temporary non-judicial lien on my property. The deputy, seeing the paperwork, stated it was a civil matter, not criminal trespass, and advised me to take it to court. I was enraged. I was also helpless. I had to pay a tow truck driver a small fortune to haul my car through the woods and park it on the shoulder, then hike my supplies in through the back trails. But Cassandra wasn't done with her power play. The next week, the Lake Vista community held its annual summer kickoff party at the jewel of the community, the brand new, massive lakefront clubhouse. This clubhouse was Cassandra's baby, a testament to her vision and the financial anchor of the HOA, built using hundreds of thousands of dollars in resident dues. During the party, Cassandra gave a speech and she didn't mince words. She publicly shamed me, referring to my cabin as a blight and an eyesore, and promised the residents that the HOA was in the final stages of a legal maneuver that would force the removal of the non-compliant structure and sell the valuable lakefront land to a respectable developer. Her words were caught on video by one of her neighbors, who was actually a secret ally of mine. This public, slanderous declaration of intent to steal my land was the final nuclear trigger. I was trapped, locked out by a fraudulent lien, publicly mocked and staring down the barrel of a six-figure legal battle against an HOA with a seemingly endless war chest. My lawyer informed me that fighting the fraudulent lien could take months, possibly years, and the HOA's deep pockets meant they could draw out the fight until I ran out of money. I felt the gut-wrenching despair of true injustice. Despair, however, quickly turned into cold, calculated fury. I realized that fighting Cassandra's rules with my rules was a losing strategy. I needed to find a flaw in the very foundation of her power. I drove 2 hours to the county archives. I didn't search through HOA documents. I searched through old original property records. My family's deed was based on a 1950s subdivision plat. I pulled the original survey maps, the topographical drawings, and the precise legal metes and bounds descriptions. I spent 4 straight days in those archives, cross-referencing my grandfather's lot lines with the HOA's public building permits for the new clubhouse. And then I found it. The smoking gun. My original deed described my northern property line with a precision that predated the establishment of the entire Lake Vista subdivision. I hired the most respected, most expensive forensic land surveyor in the state, guaranteeing him an insane bonus if he could confirm my findings. A week later, he delivered the official stamped and signed report. The results were better than I could have ever dreamed. My land wasn't just near the clubhouse. It contained the clubhouse. Due to a sloppy 1980s resurvey that the HOA had used to draw up their subdivision lines, a resurvey that had failed to correctly account for the true boundary of my pre-existing parcel, the entire $500,000 Lake Vista community clubhouse, Cassandra's pride and joy, her seat of power, was built 100% on Lot 14, my property. Trespassing. I didn't send a cease and desist. I didn't send a letter. I walked into the sheriff's office, handed over the official notarized survey, the HOA's own building permits, and a request for a criminal trespass warrant. The deputy who had brushed me off just weeks before stared at the paperwork, then looked back up at me with utter disbelief. The courthouse immediately issued an emergency injunction and a criminal eviction order. The revenge was swift, poetic, and absolutely devastating. The following Saturday, the day of the annual HOA planning meeting at the clubhouse, I rolled up to the retreat. The yellow chain was still on my driveway, mocking me, but this time I wasn't alone. I was followed by 3 patrol cars and a clearly uncomfortable county sheriff. The sheriff walked straight up to the chained entrance to the clubhouse, where a confused Cassandra was standing, clipboard in hand, welcoming residents. The sheriff didn't say a word to her. He walked past her, approached the front doors, and taped a large, stark white paper on the glass. County order of evacuation and seizure. This facility is now closed due to criminal trespassing. Cassandra's face went white. She sputtered, demanding to know what was happening. The sheriff calmly handed her a copy of the new survey and the court order. Mrs. Hayes, this entire structure is built on Lot 14. That land belongs to Mr. My name. You are all trespassing. Everyone must vacate the premises immediately. The sight of the Lake Vista residents turning on Cassandra was glorious. The meeting dissolved into chaos. Within 48 hours, the fallout was catastrophic. The entire HOA board resigned under threat of personal liability lawsuits. Cassandra was personally named in a civil suit by the homeowners for the mismanaged funds and fraudulent property claims that led to the loss of the community's most valuable asset. The clubhouse was locked, secured, and placed under county jurisdiction until the property dispute was settled. Her power, her reputation, and her entire life's focus were vaporized in an instant. The icing on the cake? I used a pair of bolt cutters I kept in the trunk to slice the fraudulent yellow chain off my own driveway. The immediate consequences were satisfying, but the long-term victory was the final nail in the coffin of the Lake Vista HOA. The loss of the clubhouse, the financial heart of the organization, crippled them. The homeowners, enraged by the massive legal fees and the fact that Cassandra's incompetence had literally given away a $500,000 asset, revolted. The vast majority of the community voted to dissolve the Lake Vista Homeowners Association entirely. The land for the retreat, including the now shuttered clubhouse, was legally and permanently restored to me, free and clear of any covenant or restriction. The fraudulent lien was expunged, and I was awarded a massive 6-figure settlement to cover my legal fees and the emotional distress caused by Cassandra's harassment. But I saved the best for last. Remember how Cassandra's petty complaint started this, my old boat lift? Well, she sold her house, quickly and at a steep loss, and moved 2 counties away, desperate to escape the public shaming. But the clubhouse was still sitting on my property. Instead of tearing it down, which would have been expensive, I waited. I waited until the legal dust settled and the building was truly mine. Then I repurposed it. I didn't open it as a community center. I converted it into the absolute largest, most exclusive storage shed and private party barn in the entire county, which I now rent out to non-HOA affiliated groups. I also had a brand new sign painted and installed directly on the front lawn of the former clubhouse, right where the old HOA sign used to be. The sign reads, in bright bold letters, "The retreat's private boathouse and party barn. No HOA, no Karens, no exceptions." And right beside that sign, I installed an even bigger, more elaborate, state-of-the-art boat lift than the old one, just to make sure the message was completely unambiguous. Cassandra's legacy became my trophy. Wow. From a small boat lift complaint to seizing an entire clubhouse. What was the most shocking moment of this epic HOA takedown? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story of sweet, sweet revenge against a power-hungry Karen. Subscribe and stay tuned for more.